Hi, I'm Jana Shalom, and this is Interrupting the Survival Spiral. In these videos, we name survival patterns and myths that many of us were taught to see as personal failure when they're actually collective. This isn't about debate or motivation. It's about clarity. And when patterns are named calmly, the nervous system has more choice. And when choice returns, this is where regulation grows. Today, we're talking about what happens when self-improvement starts to feel less supportive and starts to feel like pressure. There is a moment that many of us recognize. We learn something about ourselves. We notice a pattern. We gain clarity about how we've been showing up. And almost immediately, something shifts. There is maybe a tightening in the chest, or our breath starts to get shorter and more shallower. An internal voice that says, do something with this. Before we motivate ourselves to build or plan, let's teach ourselves how to pause. What happens in the body is awareness turns into urgency. Does the mind start organizing the next steps? I know mine does. Does the body brace as if something is depending on us and we must figure it out today? I know mine does. That pressure can feel like responsibility. It can also feel mature. It can feel like growth. But very often, it's conditioning. Many of us were trained to convert awareness straight into action. We understand something and we start adjusting immediately. We recognize the pattern, so we intervene. We gain insight, so we prove we've changed. Somewhere along the way, we learned that seeing clearly creates obligation. If we can see it, we should fix it. We know better. We should do better right away. That belief didn't appear out of nowhere. In our earlier year environments, insight sometimes did prevent rupture. Understanding sometimes that did protect our ability to feel like we belonged. Quick adjustments sometimes reduced conflict. So the nervous system has paired awareness with responsibility. Now clarity lands and the body prepares. Not because we're inspired, not because this feels familiar, not because we have it all figured out. The body prepares because growth carries energy. And when something becomes clear, the nervous system recognizes that as activation. And there's a shift in our posture. The breath softens slightly. The system mobilizes. Activation in and of itself is not the problem. The problem is the interpretation. Many of us were taught to interpret activation as instruction. We feel the internal shift and we assume it means we act now. And mobilization can feel powerful. It can feel decisive. It can feel really productive. But mobilization is simply a state. Agency has timing. When we automatically convert growth straight into movement, the body remains in a braced position. And even if bracing looks like progress, that mobilization is just a state. This is how self-improvement can quietly keep the survival spiral active, and we don't even realize it. There's also a larger context shaping this reflex. We live in systems that reward visible progress. If we are growing, we should show it. If we are healing, it should be measured. We are evolving. Others should notice, right? Self-tracking, optimization culture, public transformation. These are normal. So when awareness surfaces, we feel compelled to demonstrate it. We reorganize our routines. We revise conversations, even if it's just in our heads, and we reconstruct our own identity. It feels responsible. We are doing the right thing. But often, it's urgency wearing a mask of growth. The nervous system cannot distinguish between inspired movement and conditioned acceleration unless we slow down enough to feel the difference in our body, because they do feel very different. The interruption begins here. When self-improvement starts to feel like pressure, nothing has gone wrong. Growth has surfaced. Conditioning follows. That pressure is an echo. It's not a command, and it's not truth. We can feel insight without extracting anything from it. And that can be new for many of us, which doesn't feel familiar. And oftentimes, if something doesn't feel familiar, it can feel unsafe. We can allow clarity to reorganize us internally before it becomes visible externally. We can notice activation and remain steady. I feel that. I don't need to move yet. This is not avoidance. It's orientation. And one of the things I've learned in my own life is oftentimes I do not need more pressure. I need better direction. I need to understand the first step. In this situation, we are separating awareness from urgency. And that separation restores choice. We are allowed to integrate quietly. We are allowed to understand something without immediately performing it. Sometimes the most responsible, regulated response when we receive insight is simply just staying exactly where we are. Staying in the body. Staying with whatever the sensations are before we move. Not rebellion, not collapse. Steadiness. Growth does not require acceleration. Awareness does not require proof. Activation in the body is not a deadline to produce. When self-improvement starts to feel like pressure, we are not failing at growth. We are witnessing a nervous system that has learned a pattern that once made sense. We were taught that if we become aware, we are immediately responsible to make that change visible. But growth is not an assignment. Staying is a legitimate achievement. Clarity is simply information. Coherence, our inner worlds and our outer worlds match. That coherence is alignment. Movement inside of coherence has timing. First, we name the pattern calmly. Something softens. We stop confusing growth with performance. That's the interruption.